Happy Friday and welcome to another episode of BrainScratch. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for spending some time with me here today. You may have noticed over the past few months that some episodes of BrainScratch aren't using the screen share to go through the research together. Basically, what I'm finding is some cases don't have enough articles to make that method really worthwhile, but the cases are still important and deserve coverage. So I'm going to do them just a little bit differently. As always, the sources are listed in the description box below, and I always encourage you to dig through those to come to your own determinations. Today's case is one that falls into this same category because of the nature of a young woman's death. Police are assuming she committed suicide, and if you look at this case from a far enough perspective, it's easy to come to that same conclusion. Of course, most mainstream media strays away from covering cases of this nature. However, much like the Elisa Gomez case that we covered last season on 3 Men and a Mystery, the physical evidence and pre-existing relationship patterns in the story of Kayla Skeen raise the possibility that this supposed suicide is actually, in fact, a staged homicide. Middleburg is an unincorporated area in Clay County, Florida. It's located 26 miles southwest of downtown Jacksonville, and as of the 2010 census, the population was just over 13,000 residents. It's nearly 20 square miles in size and is the hometown of country singer Slim Whitman, rock band The Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, and the current mayor of Jacksonville, Florida, Lenny Curry. This was also the home of Kayla Skeen. Born in Jacksonville on November 6, 1992, Kayla attended Middleburg High School and, according to her Facebook page, worked as a cashier at Harbor Freight Tools. When she was 17 years old, she met a man on Valentine's Day named Alan Marsh, who was several years older than her. According to Kayla's mother, who was interviewed by Crime Watch Daily, Kayla had to frequently pay for Alan's living arrangements and more. Why would Kayla want a relationship with a man that seemingly couldn't take care of himself? According to Dr. Seth Meyers in an article he wrote for Psychology Today, this is a common issue and inevitably ends in a failed relationship. He further explains that the rescuer focuses on and worries about her partner more than she does about herself. Repeatedly, she finds herself with partners who, at first, seem sweet and have tremendous potential, but before long reveal themselves to be emotionally volatile, unstable, aggressive, controlling, unhappy, or unable to cope with some aspect of their lives. For the rescuer, she values love and relationships above all else. When she commits, she is fiercely loyal, and she will die trying to help him realize his true potential. Though she desperately tries to help her partner, what she's really trying to do is change him. Other men who are her equals and who are emotionally available often seem boring. What's more, the love of a man who is emotionally whole wouldn't seem like real love. For these women, love is about work and, sadly, suffering. It's amazing that his analysis of these types of relationships, it almost reads like a prediction of what happens with Kayla and Alan. Kayla's mother explains that he was soon isolating Kayla, limiting her time spent with friends, and insisting that she work as much as possible, even though he wasn't contributing financially. From there, things got scarier. In one particular disagreement, he used an aluminum crutch to beat up Kayla's truck while she was in it. Apparently not happy with how the crutch was doing, he left, grabbed a baseball bat, and continued, breaking all the windows and taillights. This was reported to the police, and he was arrested, charged, and sentenced to 6 months probation for criminal mischief. Kayla sent him a letter while he was being detained. It read, "Yesterday, the closest person in my life betrayed me. He put his hands on me, trashed my truck, and broke my heart. I never thought I was capable of sending the man I loved to jail. I never thought he was capable of hurting me. I love him so much it hurts. I ask myself, why did this happen? Why did he do those things? He's the bestest friend and closest person I've ever had in my life. He means everything to me, and he wants me dead. He threatened my life, said I'll never be safe. If he loved me all these years, how can he wish death upon me? Unfortunately, this occurrence wasn't enough to end their relationship in Kayla's eyes, and they were soon back together. Despite her mother's concerns, Kayla reassured her that she could handle this and that Alan was still worth it. Kayla's Facebook history seems pretty typical for someone her age, hanging out with friends, working, contacting family. In a post from April 12th, 2013, she says, "I love payday. I have a feeling the summer is going to be the best one of my life. Not only am I going to have money to spend, but I also have great friends to spend it with. Hopefully, by fall time, I'll be in my own place. Glad I'm getting my life on track." However, I do also see indicators in her post that she's struggling. It appears that one of her grandfathers passes away in mid-2013, and this hits her pretty hard. But there may be more at play. A few posts are simply FML, or F my life. In one post, on July 8th, 2013, she says, "I just want to run away. I'm seriously breaking down and no one gives a damn. Everyone who I ever called my best friend don't even give a damn about me." Later that same day, she posts a picture of flowers and says, "Flowers my love bought me because I'm having a bad day. I love him always." Kayla's last Facebook post appears to be on August 30th, 2013 from Johnson City, Tennessee. She had gone on a trip there with her mother, father, and brother to visit her grandmother. "Tennessee is so beautiful. Definitely a change from boring old Middleburg," she wrote. "I love it and want to stay forever. Missing the boyfriend but enjoying the scenery. I belong in the mountains. Off to Gem Mountain tomorrow, back home Sunday." Kayla bought a necklace there to remind her of her trip to Tennessee. Of course, Facebook doesn't always reflect an accurate reality, and it appears in real life, Kayla and Alan were having confrontations that were getting worse and worse, with one occurring at the home of a friend of theirs named Heath. He stated, quote, "Alan started getting mouthy to Kayla and was getting an attitude with everyone. Kayla and Alan went outside to talk or argue, I don't know. Well, anyways, I think it was my son who came running back in saying that Alan was beating Kayla up and dragging her around my gravel driveway. Jenny and I ran outside and I saw Kayla on the ground by my front steps at my front porch, and Alan was standing over her, hitting her repeatedly in the head." This instance was unfortunately not reported to the police. In their arguments, Alan was also reportedly threatening to hang himself if Kayla ever left him, yet another dark foreshadowing of what would finally end their relationship only a few days after Heath witnessed this physical attack. Apparently, even Alan's own mother told Kayla to leave him, and Alan's father took out a restraining order against his own son. On September 1st, 2013, after the family got back from the trip to Tennessee, Kayla picked up Alan and took him over to her grandmother's home where she was staying. Around 7:30 p.m., her grandparents got home from a church function and say Kayla and Alan were sitting in her truck. Kayla walked in with her grandparents and asked them for the key to the mobile home that was on the property. She also asked if Alan could live in the mobile home, which her grandmother quickly objected to. Kayla said Alan was threatening to leave her if he wasn't allowed to live in the mobile home. Kayla's grandfather quickly shut down the conversation, but it continued later that evening, with Kayla's grandmother eventually agreeing that Alan could spend the night, but he would have to leave the following day. Kayla told her grandmother that she had bought some groceries for them and would bring them when she came back to the main house at midnight, which was her curfew. Kayla's grandmother, Mrs. Skeen, watched television into the night and got up to make some coffee around 11 p.m. She noticed that all the lights were off at the trailer, even the porch light, which was usually always on. Thinking it odd, she kept it in mind and noticed that about 30 minutes later, the porch light was turned back on. At around 11:45, she was wondering if Kayla was going to be coming back soon, and she looked out her back porch and saw Alan. She watched him for a moment. He was just standing there, staring at her door. She opened it and asked, "What do you want, Alan?" "Is Kayla down here?" he replied. She told him no. As she went to put her shoes on to go outside to look for Kayla, Alan headed back. She finally got outside and heard Alan yelling Kayla's name over and over. As she neared the trailer, Alan yelled to her, "Go call 911. Kayla hung herself." Alan supposedly found her hanging from a tree in the backyard with a 25-foot electrical cord wrapped around her neck. He says he ran into the house to find a knife and came back outside to cut her down. By the time Kayla's grandparents got back there after calling 911, she was already on the ground, and her grandfather was sure she was gone. Kayla's grandparents' account of this evening would apparently not make it into any official report pertaining to the death investigation. The Clay County Sheriff's Office ruled it a suicide. Of course, Kayla's family did not agree. The book, Practical Homicide Investigation by Vernon Geberth, states that while depression may be the primary motive for suicide, other factors frequently play a part. Alcohol, drugs, stress, frustration, fear, anger, hostility, and guilt may lay the groundwork as well. We certainly have more than one of these factors at play in this case. The book also states that many times the surviving family cannot or will not accept the fact that a relative has committed suicide. They have been known to accuse the police of a cover-up or to petition state and federal agencies to review the local investigation with the belief that they can change the outcome. We also see that in today's case. But I have to ask, if this is indeed a homicide, then wouldn't that be the correct course of action? What else would you expect Kayla's family to do, especially if there are strong indicators of other corruption going on in the same department that's investigating the death of your loved one? Thankfully, there's another step that these families can take, and that's hiring their own investigator. Clu Wright, whose name sounds like he just stepped out of a detective novel, is the man that would take on this case about a year after Kayla's death and raise several interesting questions. The family also released his investigation notes on their Facebook page, Justice for Kayla S. Skeen, earlier this week, and I've worked his notes into today's episode. Clu believes that this was a homicide that happened inside the mobile home. Then she was placed outside to stage the scene, and he has some compelling reasons to think that. He made a strong statement on Facebook with his conclusions stating, quote, "As the private investigator in the death of Kayla Skeen, it is my responsibility to let the public and residents of Clay County know the truth behind her death. The Clay County Sheriff's Office under Rick Bessler with lead detective Wayne McKinney literally violated every rule of a death investigation. Evidence was thrown away. No interviews were done of Alan Marsh. Kayla had numerous injuries the night of her death. Her clothes were torn. Missing jewelry. Marsh lied to detectives, and I'm the only one who got a recorded statement. The detectives botched this investigation and are covering up a murder. Sheriff Daniels said when he takes office, he would reopen the case. He lied. His undersheriff Waldron would not let me attend a meeting with Kayla's mother and grandmother and was very rude to both of them, while Daniels left the room and never came back." Now, you guys know me. When I'm looking at a case like this, I'm always focused on intent and the physical evidence. In this case, the intent could really be on either side. Kayla could have wanted to escape a situation that she felt like she was trapped in. Or Alan could have once again lost control of himself and wanted to avoid responsibility, something that seems to line up with the values of his lifestyle up to this point and honestly, apparently even to this day. So what about the physical evidence? According to the reporting from Crime Watch Daily, Alan claimed that Kayla was suspended 2 to 3 feet above the ground. We also have the white plastic lawn chair that appears to be part of the scene that may support a suspension hanging of that nature, but according to Clue, the length of electrical cord hanging down from the tree was too long for that to be the case. Kayla is 5'2", and the measurement from where the cord was cut to the ground was only 4'10". This means Kayla would have been standing on the ground. I also have to say, the knots that we're seeing in these photos do not appear to have been under any serious stress for a prolonged period of time. Imagine over 100 pounds pulling down on those knots for a long enough period of time that when emergency services arrived, they said she was absolutely cold to the touch. At least one of these knots should be completely balled up, and there might also be stress marks on the cable where it wrapped around the tree, particularly where the cable wrapped over the top of the tree limb. There could also be marks in the limb. Of course, I don't know the order of the events leading up to when these photos were taken, but I can't understand why someone would loosen the knots and then take a photo of the scene. Even outside of that, I've worked with enough extension cables and had them stretched in all kinds of bizarre ways that I know it's very easy to leave stress marks on those cables. According to Clue's information, the section that was still on the tree was eventually cut down and the cord was taken by investigators. That should be good, right? Possibly some analysis could be done? Well, also, according to Clue's report, quote, there was no testing of DNA or fingerprints of the extension cord. The extension cord that was taken into evidence by the Clay County Sheriff's Office has been discarded and thrown away, according to Detective Barnes. Kayla's boyfriend, Alan Marsh, did not give a written statement, recorded statement, or interview of the events that night. Kayla's grandparents did not give a written statement or recorded statement. The Clay County Sheriff's Office official reports confirm that witness statements were obtained, but not that of Alan Marsh, Kay Skeen, and Rayburn Skeen. So basically, they got statements, but not from the people that were actually there when it happened. There was also no forensic investigation steps taken in regard to Alan's physical state. No photos of his body, no nail clippings, no check for defensive wounds. But honestly, I think there may be a very good reason why there would be no defensive wounds, and it's not because Kayla did this to herself, but we'll get to that. Another big point of contention in this case is with the marks on Kayla's neck. You guys know I don't present photos of that nature here, but if you want to use the link below to watch the Crime Watch Daily coverage, you can see them there. Essentially, in a hanging like this, the marks should show an upwards V pattern because of gravity pulling the body down and the rope holding it up. The V should normally have its bottom point below the chin, and then the two upper points would lead up to the rear of the person's ears. In this case, both Clue and forensic medical expert Dr. William Smock, whose experience includes 20 years in forensics and serving as chair of the Institute on Strangulation Prevention's National Medical Advisory Committee, they both say that that V isn't going the right direction. He says, quote, "What we see in this is a horizontal mark that goes across the back of the neck. That does not come from a hanging." There was also several other indicators of a potential struggle. The neck of Kayla's relatively new shirt was ripped, and that new necklace that she had bought the day before to remember her trip to Tennessee was broken and found in pieces in the living room of the mobile home. The cord was found on the coffee table. However, the pendant and the metal clasp that attached it to the cord wasn't found until a few days later in between the cushions of this chair. Another interesting point is that the extension cord that was used also comes from this same room. It was usually kept running behind the couch and over to a lamp. Considering that the noose was tied in the middle of the cord, is it possible someone took the cord, fashioned the noose, and from behind this chair used it to attack Kayla? Would the chair keep the attacker protected from any defensive wounds? Could this possibly explain why her necklace broke in this particular spot? Her diamond nose ring was also missing, and Clue Wright noticed some fresh injuries on her face in the photos from the medical examination, marks that the ME claims he didn't notice, and may point to Kayla scratching herself as she struggled to try to remove the cord from her neck. The family says she did not have those marks on her face earlier that day. Dr. Smock says those marks are consistent with Kayla trying to get out of a strangulation. Toxicology reports showed there were no illegal narcotics in her system. I don't believe Alan was tested, but according to information given to Clue by his family, they wouldn't be surprised if they did find that he was on something. Clue also learned that Kayla's last phone call was around 10:45 p.m. to a friend, and Kayla was upset. Apparently, Alan wouldn't leave her alone. The friend said that she could hear him yelling in the background, specifically telling her that her grandparents are not her friends. Did this friend hear the fight that would end Kayla's life moments later? One of the more bizarre things to happen is Alan actually agreed to be interviewed by Clue. His story is that she returned from her grandparents' home and was distraught. He supposedly scuffled, his words, with her in the home when she had picked up a knife and was threatening to harm herself. He said he eventually got it away from her after, quote, waiting for my chance, my opportunity. When asked if he thought if Kayla could tie the slip knots used on the rope, Alan said, "Nah, I don't think so." He also said in his interview with Clue, once again, quote, "I just want closure to see if it was foul play." Apparently, he has also spoken to several friends since, claiming that someone else was there that night, and he does think that she was actually murdered. According to News4Jax.com, when the Crime Watch Daily episode aired in mid-2018, Kayla's mother felt relieved and one step closer to proving that Kayla was killed by Alan. She said, "It gives me more of the strength to keep fighting and continuing on until I can get justice for her. There's never a doubt in my mind that Kayla did not do this. I want her death certificate changed, and I'm not going to stop, no matter what. I want justice for my daughter." However, just when it looks like some momentum is going on in this investigation, we get another pushback. According to a later article from News 4, quote, "As a courtesy to her family, Kayla Skeen's case was reopened by the Clay County Sheriff's Office, which asked the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to review it. An investigative report from FDLE said that after reviewing Clay County's files on the case, along with a complaint from a private investigator hired by Skeen's family, the FDLE would not be opening an investigation into Skeen's death." Kayla's mother commented about this development on the Justice for Kayla S. Skeen Facebook page. "First of all, CCSO did not reopen Kayla's case as a courtesy to me. Major centers from the previous administration reopened Kayla's case in 2014 after an extensive report provided by my private investigators. Second, Kayla's case was turned over to the FDLE last summer after CCSO was pressured to do so by several reports from investigators. I spoke with an agent from the FDLE on February 14th, 2018. He told me that they have chosen not to investigate Kayla's case because they are not an investigative entity like most people think, and that I need to handle this on a local level. This is nothing new to me. I already knew this. Third, the FDLE agent that chose not to look into Kayla's case is Agent Lonnie Mills, whom worked with Sheriff Daryl Daniels. It is another injustice to Kayla for our sheriff's buddy old pal to look into Kayla's case. She also mentions that the reports basically show they came to this determination before the Crime Watch Daily special aired. So there was a bunch of considerations there that probably weren't taken into consideration for their decision because they had made the decision before. Now, I mentioned earlier that there appeared to be some corruption in this area. Sheriff Daryl Daniels is at the middle of it, and it may have just cost him his job. About just a week ago, News 4 reported, quote, "After an investigation that went on for over a year, charges were filed against Clay County Sheriff Daryl Daniels, and he surrendered to authorities. Court records obtained by News4Jax show Daniels, 55, faces 4 charges, including evidence tampering, a third-degree felony, and 3 misdemeanor counts of false reports to law enforcement authorities. Daniels' attorney said his client does not plan on resigning his position and still plans to seek re-election. He has been under scrutiny from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for more than a year after he was accused of ordering one of his deputies to illegally arrest his former mistress. Earlier this week, Darrell Daniels lost the primary election to Michelle Cook. Yesterday, the write-in candidate withdrew, and Michelle is now Sheriff Cook. I'm hopeful that this may give Kayla's family a fresh shot at their search for justice. Alan Marsh seems to have continued on his path. On June 29th, a post on Justice for Kayla S. Skeen said, Alan Marsh has once again been arrested. He was arrested last night for trespassing in a structure and resisting arrest without violence. I know he killed my daughter, and I know this may sound crazy, but the thought of anyone being homeless makes me feel sorry for that person, even him. I can't help it. I feel so much better knowing that he is in jail, has a bed to sleep in, 3 meals a day, and our citizens are safe. God, please forgive me for having a heart and caring about someone that has destroyed my life by taking my baby girl's life from her. When I was researching this case, and that reference to the band, the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, came up, it reminded me of a big hit they had called Face Down. Some of the lyrics seem to strongly connect to today's episode for me. Cover up with makeup in the mirror. Tell yourself it's never going to happen again. You cry alone, and then he swears he loves you. Do you feel like a man when you push her around? Do you feel better now as she falls to the ground? Kayla Suzanne Skeen is buried at Holly Hill Memorial Park. The inscription on her tombstone reads, I am a star in the sky looking back at you. Alan Marsh has never been named a suspect or person of interest in this case by local authorities and, of course, is considered innocent until proven guilty. So what do you think, brain scratchers? For me, it comes down to one of 2 possibilities. I personally don't buy Alan's theory that there was someone else randomly hanging around their mobile home that night. Not to mention, this doesn't seem like a guy that would really let Kayla out of his sights for a prolonged period of time. So even the story of her doing this to herself, does it really make a lot of sense? She couldn't even call her friend without him being all over her. Do you have any other thoughts on this? I'd certainly like to hear about those in the comment box. Of course, Clue Wright needs your help. Please share this video in Florida and let's see if we can get some tips called in to him. Contact info is in the description box below. A big thank you to Crime Watch Daily, or True Crime Daily as they're now called, News4Jax, Psychology Today, Wikipedia, and of course, Justice for Kayla S. Skeen and Clue Wright for information contributing to today's story. For more information on domestic violence, including many great resources to find help, please use the link to BrainScratchers.com that you'll find in the description box below. Before I end today's video, I'd like to thank several new patrons. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Jean Airy. Thank you, Rachel. And thank you, Matt Van Duzen. If you'd like to support the channel, please visit lordandarts.com. There you can sign up for PayPal, sign up for Patreon, or buy merchandise. All of it keeps me here, always with limited commercials, and sometimes we have to go completely without ads, like on today's video, trying to help these families in these terrible situations. So I really appreciate you guys helping me raise awareness for them. I'll be back with a brand new episode of Case Cracked on Monday right here on the Lord and Arts channel.